So did federal agents find evidence of food stamp fraud at Findlay Market? We're asking those questions tonight as we dig a little bit deeper into crimes that cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. 9 on Your Side was there as agents took away boxes of evidence from Bush's Country Corner. The search warrant just obtained by the 9 on Your Side I-team reveals federal investigators believe the store processed nearly $3.5 million in fraudulent transactions beginning in 2010 and continuing until March of this year. And get this, the USDA identified $560 million of food stamp fraud last year. The USDA insists it has a high-tech network that can identify possible fraud, then alert investigators. But as Chief Investigative Reporter Craig Cheatham discovered, agents in Ohio learned about years of fraud from outsiders, not the system designed to alert them.
Side of the market, they're here.
Federal and state law enforcement agents and local police moved quickly on the streets outside Findlay Market. They raided Bush's Country Corner store, where they counted cash and collected evidence.
We're executing a search warrant at Bush's Country Corner for food stamp trafficking issues.
Adam Johnson, the agent in charge of the Cincinnati office of the Ohio Investigative Unit, says this investigation is part of the Southern District of Ohio's Financial Crimes Task Force, which includes agents from the Secret Service and USDA's Office of Inspector General. USDA says documented fraud represents less than 1% of the benefits. That small percentage still amounted to $560 million last year alone.
It's something that we deal with on a regular basis.
3 years ago, federal agents, state and local police raided U.S. Beef in Fairfield after undercover investigations recorded illegal trafficking of EBT cards provided by the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, the modern version of food stamps.
They're gypping the system, making all of us pay for this, and it's not intended for that.
The 18-month investigation began with a tip from a confidential informant who revealed U.S. Beef employees bought EBT cards for half their value, then billed the government for the full amount, a total of $906,000 in fraud, according to the criminal complaint.
If you do have a confidential informant who is able to get essentially on the inside of the organization, and especially if you're able to record those kinds of interactions, that can make for a very compelling criminal case.
U.S. Beef's co-owners, Scott Traum and Joey Lightcap Traum, and employees Dalton Traum, Keith Blankenship, and Jordan Kaiser all received sentences of at least a year in prison. The evidence included a detailed analysis of SNAP sales by U.S. Beef and 3 comparable companies, which showed a 350% increase in transactions by U.S. Beef 2 years before the tip by the informant, sales that were quadruple the combined total of the 3 comparable companies. That seems like a glaring red flag.
Absolutely, that is strong evidence of fraud.
But what the U.S. Attorney now describes as strong evidence of fraud was apparently never identified as possible fraud by USDA's alert system, which monitors electronic transaction activity and identifies suspicious stores for analysis and investigation. As the lead USDA investigator revealed in an affidavit, the investigation began with the informant's tip, not any evidence provided by the taxpayer-funded high-tech alert system.
And that's fair. That's a fair point. In reality, when we're talking about a program of that scope, knowing exactly where to focus on potential fraud requires a wide variety of different sources, whether they be individuals with knowledge or statistical information or whatnot, but we probably need more than just one source in order to be able to figure out where to focus those investigative resources.
Even with USDA's alert system, Glassman insisted the massive SNAP program with 263,000 retailers and 7 million transactions a day is an enormous challenge to monitor.
It would be great if we had the technological means to instantly catch everyone the moment that a fraud occurs, but we don't.
Recently unsealed federal court records show the problems continue, In a search warrant filed 3 months ago, a USDA agent revealed an investigation had uncovered $9 million in SNAP fraud by Ohio direct distributors. The agent alleges the fraud began in 2011 and lasted for 6 years. Court records show the investigation began with tips from 2 individuals, not the USDA alert system. U.S. Attorney Glassman declined to comment on that case because criminal charges haven't been filed.
Any offense that's gone undetected by law enforcement for any amount of time is frustrating. But I do have confidence that ultimately those major frauds will be discovered, they will be investigated, and we will then prosecute the offenders and put them in prison.
The I-Team requested an interview with a USDA representative, but the department didn't make anyone available, and USDA did not address the specific issues or cases mentioned in this report. The lead agency for investigating food stamp fraud in Ohio is the Ohio Investigative Unit, headed up by Adam Johnson.
We use all the resources that have been given to us to investigate it as best our agency can.
Today, investigators also executed search warrants at 2 Indiana homes as part of the probe of food stamp transactions at Bush's Country Corner, one that took a much bigger step as agents removed boxes of evidence. This is the search warrant agents executed today. In it, agents, quote, confirmed illegal trafficking of SNAP benefits. This investigation, like others we examined in this story, began as a result of a tip by an informant. In the warrant, store owners Mike and Amanda Bush and Randall Bush are described as key targets in the investigation. Mike Bush declined to comment on the raid. The I-Team also requested comments from former employees of U.S. Beef and their attorneys. They either declined or did not respond to our requests.
All right.